And welcome to your weekly interval. This is the Best Damn Nerd Show, of course, on the Tenno Media Network, the worldwide leader in all streaming entertainment. I am your host, Microphone Alchemist Bimbo Jimbo, and with me tonight, Imperial Commissar Jeff Budd.
Hey, everybody.
Hall of Fame cyber athlete Jonathan Craig.
Yeah, I know this is pre-recorded, but in the weeks that have passed since our first episode release to now, Tenno Network has taken over all net market share for Hulu, Netflix, Apple TV Plus, whatever the hell that is.
It's great. I'm so looking forward to the Best Damn Nerd Show series on Netflix that's coming out. It's going to be really exciting. Some of the castings that we've gotten is pretty encouraging stuff. Professor Chris Davis.
I'm sweaty. I feel sunburnt.
Not in the new
San
shirt.
Diego. It feels weird.
And Chief Science Officer of Star Labs, Mark Truex.
It's either a 10-0 or a no-go for me, James. How you doing?
Well, you're a perfect 10-0 to me, Mark. Welcome back, everybody, to the Best Damn Nerd Show. How we all doing? You know, what's new in your lives? Davis, you're getting ready to pull up stakes and move yet again?
It's like the 30th time.
30th time in about 10 years. So
seriously, like that's like the worst thing imaginable. Why do you move so much? You nomad?
I try to get further away from you, just find that sweet spot so you can't come over that much. I don't want you ruining my games. So
that's not true.
It's just I think I'm moving far enough away to where you're just not going to screw anything up. So but I have been moving, and I've been finding some sweet stuff from past cons and past moments that we've had. And I think my favorite find today was the old Watchmen condoms that they handed out.
Still unused.
The blue Dr. Manhattan Magnum Dong condom.
Magnum, what bold. I don't recall it being a Magnum, Davis.
It's not a Magnum, Chris.
Well, they saw me and they picked a selective one. So
look, to Davis, that is a Magnum, okay?
They were sent to us by a listener.
Is that true?
Yeah, because it's promo for the movie. They weren't at Comic-Con.
It's funny? Yeah. I had completely forgotten how we had gotten our hands on those to begin with. I thought that...
So thank you, listener, if you're still out there. Nobody else seems to care.
I care. Can you elaborate on that at all, Jeff? How did we... Because that's completely gone from my memory. I mean, it's been 11 years, but... How did we get them?
Somebody who listens to the show, and this is back when we were still doing it on campus, they sent us the condoms because the movie was coming out. There were a lot of different like promotional items for the movie, and I think we even did a story on the condoms.
Yeah.
And we were talking about how funny it would be, and I don't know, our typical nerdy jokes about how we don't use condoms anyway, and somebody sent one for every single one of us.
Well, our jokes were proven true because Davis still has it in perfect condition.
There you go.
I was thinking about using it for when I want a kid, but she doesn't. Because it's definitely expired by now.
Oh my God! Yeah,
hopefully she doesn't listen to the podcast.
She'll totally trust a blue Dr. Manhattan condom. That's great.
Spice things up,
John, I understand you're getting the missus into Battlestar Galactica.
I am, yeah. She's for most of our relationship, she's been very anti-sci-fi, but I'm slowly like chipping away at that armor. And Battlestar is a great entry point because it doesn't have aliens, so that doesn't put her off. So I started her the same way I started, actually, and totally by accident. We watched 33, the first episode.
You didn't do the miniseries,
and then I looked at the app and I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot about the miniseries. So we went back and watched the miniseries. But actually, like looking back, I think that's the best way to watch it, because that first episode where they have to jump every 33 minutes is so like stressful and so action packed that it really hooks you in. And then you go back and watch the miniseries and you get all this backstory for characters that you're now kind of invested with. So I don't know. It's working out. She's hooked. And she's like, when can we watch the next episode?
That's
nice.
Awesome. That's awesome to hear. Yeah, that 33 episode is incredibly frenetic in its pace by design, obviously. That's very cool. Well, I hope she enjoys the whole run. Maybe not as much as we did, but hopefully she can come to some sort of appreciation for it. That's super
I think
cool.
she's gonna get into it. I was like, so what did they do about the carrier? She's like, oh, they got to destroy the Olympic carrier.
Good for
Oh
her.
my god, you're a savage.
Absolutely right.
You're a savage. I would not have made that call.
Absolutely. No, that was the right move. Thing had nukes aboard.
Cold-blooded.
Radiation signal.
They didn't see anyone inside, right? That's your rationalization.
Dude, they were not responding to their hails. They were told to stop. They didn't stop. They fired a shot across the bow. They made the absolute right call.
The original script actually had them see people on board too before they made the decision.
I feel like they should have, dude.
I wish they had. Yeah. We got to get all the couples together to play the board game. She's gonna throw you through the airlock if we do the Pegasus expansion.
I'll be the first one eliminated.
Wait till she gets into season 2. She'll want to play as Helena Kane.
Yeah.
Don't give her the nukes.
It's a dangerous game to play with couples.
Battlestar Galactica.
Oh yeah,
by the
John
way,
knows. We've done it before.
It's streaming on Peacock and it's streaming on Sci-Fi Online. Minimal commercials. It's a very nice watch. I've been diving back into a little bit of BSG, which is nice. Marco, what have you had going on?
Recently, I actually was showered with gifts from my adoring family, which is always appreciated, for all kinds of life events, like, just on a whim or Father's Day or, whatever is seasonal. We're really into it. And gotta say, a little bit about me. Jeff and I have another podcast called the Ultra Monthly Podcast. Check it out on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher,
shameless
radio,
plug,
whatever you do. But my wife and daughter.
Is that one on the Tenno Media Network? I didn't think so.
Oh,
got
nice.
me this sweet post right here, which is a Ultra Force poster, which is essentially better than the Avengers, but in the Ultraverse.
Wow.
So
Absolutely,
pretty cool things to go up in the studio around these parts. And in addition to that, we also went exploring this fun art like statue gallery out near Vail Lake in Southern California, where there's all these fun like metal sculptures of xenomorphs and transformers and ghost riders riding like actual like Harley things. So it was really cool to just walk around with my 3-year-old like gawking at superheroes and dinosaurs and all these massive sculptures recently.
That's very cool.
Yeah, there's other like artsy things, but
yeah, I was gonna say, is this just a sculpture garden of just nerdy things? Because that sounds awesome. But
yeah, there are some other things like buffalo and horses, and there might have been some satans. I know.
Probably.
Yeah, there are some dangerous aisles to walk down. But the dinosaurs
there's more than
and
one
the
Ghost Rider,
Transformers.
by the way, there's more than one Ghost Rider.
Best part of the movie.
One Ghost Rider. There was a Hulk that was all painted up. There was an Iron Man. There was an actual Iron Throne made of real swords, which was super cool. It wasn't just like some mold. There was a Spider-Man hanging off a lamppost, a Bumblebee, and these are like 15-foot high Transformer metal.
What is
like a real Transformer? Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the I mean, is this just is this like stuff like how does
it's a gallery. It's a artist that's out that way. Yeah, and so he sells these pieces and amongst variety of other outdoor
might see
sculptures.
At Comic-Con?
What's that?
Is that stuff that we might see at like Comic-Con over the years, and they just put it there for its resting place?
I don't think so.
Stuff.
Yeah, I don't think so. But
Well,
it's free to go explore because this guy's like open gallery just out in like the middle of like the desert and the lake.
In James's world, everything exists to be a part of Comic-Con or not.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're in Southern California. It's these large sculptures. It would not be beyond the realm of possibility.
You think nothing else is going on in Southern California besides San Diego Comic-Con?
Well, tonight that's all that's going on because that is
backwater Rube. What do you know about Southern California?
That is the theme.
This is a destination spot.
It is, and look, San Diego.
We have 2 world-class cities here.
City. Yeah, how's San Diego sports doing? Not
we
great.
still got some.
How are your Warriors
Seals
doing?
Professional lacrosse, bro. Those games are fun.
Tonight's episode is going to be centering on San Diego Comic-Con. After 50 years, because of everything going on with the coronavirus, they are moving to digital. They originally announced that they were canceling Comic-Con, and then they put forth a plan to move it digitally. So tonight, we are going to take a look back at Comic-Con Terra Firma, all the great San Diego Comic-Cons that we have gone to, a little bit of the history and just our favorite moments, because, you know, every year, if you've been following the Best Damn Nerd Show, San Diego Comic-Con is a big deal to all of us. It's a big deal to San Diego and to just nerds everywhere. So I'm very much so looking forward to getting into all of our con memories. It is the con of cons, and we will be discussing that on the other side on the Best Damn Nerd Show. And welcome back to the Best Damn Nerd Show. John Craig, Jeff Budd, Mark Truex, Chris Davis joining me tonight as we are going to be talking San Diego Comic-Con. And we're going to start our Comic-Con talk with a little bit of a history lesson because, you know, like we said in the segment before, 50 years of the San Diego Comic-Con. And, you know, Jeff, I know, was it last year that you went to all those panels sort of exploring the history of the con through the decades? And so I lean on you in terms of being the expert and also the first San Diego resident of the Best Damn Nerd Show on just the history of Comic-Con, if you would.
Some call me the Comic-Con lore master, if you will.
Some do. I would. I don't know if Tim Childs would.
I mean, I'll give a very brief overview. Last year was the 50th anniversary, and so they had different panels throughout the convention where it celebrated each decade and kind of just did a focus on that. And it would have a panel of different artists and contributors that kind of did a lot that decade, or they had just attended it a lot. The convention started off very small. It was just really a group of collectors, a lot of people that are just super young, teenagers and people in their 20s that just wanted to swap stories, trade comics, and just get together and network. It was a bunch of young artists before they became legends. Somehow they were able to get Ray Bradbury as a speaker almost immediately, and he never stopped going until he passed away.
It's crazy.
That's awesome.
The man just loves comics, and he was a real supporter of not only that convention, but a lot of other smaller conventions. But he always had very positive things to say about San Diego Comic-Con. I think it was, the very late 70s, like 79, when it finally expanded to the point where it needed the convention center. First time I ever went was in 1999. I don't think they were even utilizing the full convention center yet at that point. Now, not only is it the convention center, it's all of the surrounding hotels, some of the other buildings. I know even Petco Park kind of shuts down a little bit for the convention, depending on whatever exhibit it is that they may throw in there, like Walking Dead survival experience and things like that. I mean, it's so much a part of San Diego. I know they call themselves Comic-Con International now because they were trying to trademark Comic-Con to kind of squeeze out New York Comic-Con and trying to say that they are like the premier comic convention in the world. And in case they ever were to leave San Diego, which I mean is a realistic expectation at some point. But
well, I mean,
this city
just
loves
like the
it.
10-0 Media Network, San Diego Comic-Con is the worldwide leader in conventions. But I mean, there has been talk about, you know, LA tried to steal it several years back.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy that it has stayed in San Diego up to this point, because if it moved to LA, it would just be another thing in LA. It wouldn't be special. What's always struck me about the times I've gone down to San Diego for Comic-Con is how the whole city, you know, really celebrates it. It is like a citywide candy cane lane sort of deal, but with superheroes and nerdy stuff. And, you know, you go into any restaurant, it could be as simple as a waiter or waitress wearing a Superman t-shirt, but you know, so many restaurants really do or shops go the extra mile with decorations and stuff like that. It is a citywide celebration that is pretty cool. And you wouldn't get that in Los Angeles if it got stolen, right?
No, it would just be another weekend in LA. I mean, that particular spot, of course, would be about the convention, but I mean, it's just something else that would be going on in the city.
I mean, a great example is like E3 in LA every year. Like it's started to open up to consumers now, and there's no like special fanfare. That the city doesn't shut down for it. In fact, most people that live in LA probably don't even know that it's happening, despite the fact that there's tens of thousands of people there every day. And even the businesses around, like, well, you know, they don't like do anything special to celebrate it.
Yeah. So I'm glad that San Diego up to this point has been able to hold on to it. Something San Francisco was not able to do with WonderCon, but San Diego has been able to maintain Comic-Con. Jeff, I want to keep it with you for another minute because one thing that I took away from you going to these panels was the tales from the Cortez Hotel and the ladies of the night that befriended some of the early con goers and organizers. Please regale us with the tales from the Cortez.
Yeah, San Diego is a very different city than it used to be in the 70s. It was, I mean, it's always been a naval town, and with the Navy comes prostitutes and a lot of bars and things like that. I mean, that's just how it goes.
They go from port to port.
Yeah. and that hotel was wild up until it like broke apart and then became a historical landmark. But yeah, so there was one time, I forget who it was who told the story. He ended up, I think, becoming like a writer for Mad Magazine or something, but he was attending those first few Comic-Cons just as a teenager and a comic book reader. And he was saying that they ran into these prostitutes that were just like there at the hotel, of course. And they said, and like they said to him, it's like, hey, you want to come down to the basement? It's like, we got booze, we got drugs, and like, yeah, and the prostitutes came with them. They all just hung out and partied the entire night. There were a ton of great stories. Jack Kirby had done some crazy shit, like in the lobby of this one hotel. Somebody crashed into something. And then there was that girl who she ended up, I think she's like on the board for Comic-Con now, but the first time she ever went, she was an aspiring artist in high school. She was like an 18-year-old, and her parents were trying to get a hold of her. And so they called the hotel, and whoever answered goes, if I had a daughter, she would not be here because somebody just took their clothes off at the pool and there's going to be an orgy.
It's like Almost Famous.
Yeah, it was exactly. And so it was so great. Yeah, it seems like it was a lot of fun, and people talking about stabbings and things like that. I mean, San Diego didn't get clean until the 90s. So,
well, the stabbings wouldn't end in the 90s because at my first Comic-Con, there certainly was one of those, that
was the first one in convention. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, history made.
The others don't count. It's on the street.
I appreciate the history of Comic-Con because it really has grown from such humble beginnings to being such a worldwide pop culture phenomenon. The things that come out of Comic-Con, immediately trending all over Twitter and social media and everything like that. So it has gone from this small convention to become this hub. And, I know in years past we've talked about there are things that go to San Diego Comic-Con that maybe don't have a place in our view, at being even at Comic-Con. I always use the example that TV show Pan Am was there, hawking their show, and it's like that had no business.
Both Tommy Merlin and Harley Quinn were in that show.
Yeah, well, not yet.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Looking back, hindsight, it's totally nerdy television series.
So, Jeff, when did you start going to Comic-Con?
99. It was I had just turned 15. It was just like the summer. I was screwing around with a couple of friends. And one of my buddies who had already known about it, he's like, hey, do you guys feel like going to Comic-Con today? And I had no idea what it was. I had never been to any sort of comic book convention before. And it was just a Saturday afternoon. I was like, yeah, I'd love to. And so his mom drove us downtown. There was no line. You just walked right up to where you fill out the ticket. It was $20 to get in for a day. And then you didn't even get your name pass printed out. You had to write your name down. They had pens everywhere. The grab bag that they gave you wasn't a backpack. It was just a little plastic handled one. And so you just had to carry it around all day. It had your brochure and all that stuff. I don't think I went to a single panel. I just explored the floor because I only had the half day there. And it blew my mind. I never looked back. I mean, I fell in love with it. I think I went home that day and told my brother and my parents about it. And if it wasn't that year, it was the next year. They definitely took all of us that Sunday. Like, we went back. So I don't know if I did it that year or if it started becoming a tradition where I would go one day with my friends and then my family would all go together like the next day. And Sunday is usually the cheapest. I mean, I don't know what it's like anymore, but the different days used to have different prices. And yeah. Friday and Saturday were more expensive. And then you could get a deal for like a 2-day pass if you were doing Saturday, Sunday. And then Sunday was only like $15 or something like that. And that's always when the deals would be regardless because the vendors have been there the whole weekend and we're trying to unload stuff. So like my brother had different collections that he was doing at the time. Games Workshop actually used to go to San Diego Comic-Con. They don't go there anymore, unfortunately. I bought my first pack of Ultramarines at the first Comic-Con I ever went to. Started painting them like a week later, gave up about a week and a half after that. But yeah, my eyes were open to like so many more like nerdy things or things that I had forgotten about. I mean, it was a very different world in 99. You didn't have everything, accessible back then. So, I mean, it was kind of just like a really cool trip down memory lane as far as like some of the toys that were being sold, the comic books that were available. I was only 15, so there were certain areas where we weren't allowed to go to. The 18 and up as far as like the dirty comics. And there also used to be knife booths there and stuff like that where they would sell you different like weapons. And we weren't allowed to stand near there. And they kept telling my friend Jake and I to move along because we were trying to touch the stuff. But yeah, it was so much fun. Yeah, we had an amazing time. It blew my mind. And then I think it was the following year I went to my first panel and I got to see Ray Bradbury and I got to see The Simpsons, like with Matt Groening and stuff was there, which was really cool.
That is very cool, and you've not missed a year since. The Jeff Budd streak is intact, and that is very impressive. So I'm going to tell a quick little tale about my first San Diego Comic-Con. Jeff, you know some of these parts as well, so you're gonna have to fill it in here. And Mark, you actually know a little bit about this too, even though this predated your tenure on the Best Damn Nerd Show. But I skipped a wedding to go to my first San Diego Comic-Con, to which I still get grief for to this day, but I don't regret it. No offense.
You knew what your priorities were.
Yeah, I mean, no offense to to my friends whose wedding I skipped, but they're still happily married and they have kids and stuff like that. They didn't need me. I had never been to a convention of this nature before, so I was, this was early Best Damn Nerd Show days, and welcome, but also, and I didn't really have a concept of what I was in for at San Diego Comic-Con, and Tim's, I don't know, I guess ex-girlfriend at the time already, who knows anymore, but Ricky, you may know her in the 10 Media Network from such shows as Iron Nerd. Ricky Replay offered me, sight unseen, my uncle who works for this media company is going to cover San Diego Comic-Con, doesn't need his pass, isn't going to go. You can just take his pass and go the whole Comic-Con. Well, that sounds awesome. So I took her up on that, and we road tripped from San Francisco down to San Diego, picking up my future wife and her friend along the way. How you doing? And so it was a lot of fun, despite like these like super weirdos that were following us at one point on the road trip. But I had bought this like Iron Man helmet from from Target that I was rocking the whole week, which was really cool. I was recording my travels on that hand cam thing, the Zoom cam or whatever it was. I don't even remember the name of it anymore, but that's how
Flip cam.
The flip cam. Yeah,
Flip
that's
video.
how we used to have to record mobile videos back then. This was
the Stone Age. Yeah, it was a while ago.
But yeah, road trip down there, which was a lot of fun, and met up with Jeff, and I don't even remember where we were staying, but we all got like a...
It was not a good place.
Some crappy... Hey, I have a knack for that in San Diego, apparently. But we were staying at some crappy motel room, and come to find out that... Ricky's uncle actually had to work, and I did not have a Comic-Con pass waiting for me. You know, what do they say about things being too good to be true? They usually are. So I had to scramble and go on Craigslist to find somebody that I could buy a pass from. It was like Shelly or April or something like that I had to buy it from. I still have it somewhere, but black market badge buying from a girl to even get into Comic-Con, so that was my first introduction into it. But I do remember walking in for the first time and being just completely blown away by everything that was going on. It was such, sensory overload, nerdgasm, whatever you want to call it. I encourage everyone to go at least once, because when that first time, everything's new and fresh. It is a special experience your first time going to Comic-Con. So I definitely encourage everyone to go at least one time in their lives if this is sort of, something that speaks to you, you're passionate about these fandoms and everything. And it is the one and only time that I did Hall H, and I camped out for Hall H. I went at like 4 or 5 in the morning, and got to see the Avengers assemble for the first time ever on stage all together as a cast, which was awesome. It was Harrison Ford's first time coming to Comic-Con for Cowboys and Aliens, and they brought him out in handcuffs, which was great. They would need those handcuffs later because, as I alluded to a few minutes ago, somebody did get stabbed in Hall H. They were not practicing social distancing, and a nerd stabbed another one with a pen.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I was in there the whole day. I saw like the
Does
Harry
that break
Potter.
skin?
What is that?
Does that break skin?
If you stab hard enough, yes. And
Wow.
so there was a stabbing. They showed footage from Captain America, the First Avenger, which had not come out yet, which I was very excited for. Thor, the first one of that. Paul, which was not a good movie, but we did do a movie night on. Harry Potter, Deathly Hallows. I can't remember if it was part 1 or 2. But I was just in Hall, and Green Lantern. I was in there the whole day, had some nice talks with some fellow nerds that were sitting near me. It just was an unforgettable first Comic-Con experience, and that was just Hall H. But I want to kick it over to you guys, and we'll be revisiting stories and stuff like that, because there's a lot more from that trip that Jeff and I are going to have to get into in terms of going out and just debauchery and stuff like that. But Mark, what was your first Comic-Con like?
So my first con was 2013, and actually the first time I met Chris in the flesh in a little parking lot that's not even there anymore. And I remember the nice warm embrace of my friend for the first time, and it was magic.
That when Davis changed right away too?
Yes,
probably.
Yes,
That happens a lot.
I was like, this is getting really intense real fast, but
Intimate.
it was a good time. I mean, previous to Comic-Con, I went to WonderCon with Jeff and had an absolute blast there, and that was overwhelming. So that kind of like prepared me in a way, but not at all if you compare them to in the scope of what they're doing. And so I just remember like the first time actually being shoved into crowds of people just trying to move down a line looking for things and grabbing whatever people are trying to hand you, and that was exciting. Lots of thrill there. Picking up my first exclusive ever, Zombie Bacon, which, come on, y'all. Original package. Stinky Pete would be proud.
Make it crackle, Mark.
That's the sound of freshness. It's like a good French loaf. It's
crackle too hard, it's gonna pop.
But absolutely amazing. I couldn't believe I could experience an epic gathering of culture and art, so what seemed uniquely designed for me, but with all these other people that loved it just as much as I did. And I get giddy about it every single year. I don't think it's a coincidence that the first time it's canceled is the year I moved away from San Diego. I don't. It makes me sad.
Well, I do know that in the years when I was going and you did not, I still lamented that for you, and I tried to assuage your pain by at least picking up an exclusive or two here or there for you. But I was so thrilled when you actually were able to start going, because I know just it obviously right in your wheelhouse, which is why you were here today on the Best Damn Nerd Show. John, do you recall your first con? And that one we have a lot to get into about some of those early ones with you.
I'll be honest, some of the details are foggy, although I will say I had the exact same feeling as Mark when you first walk in and see just the scope and scale of it and start to really take in all the different things on display. We had conned our way. This must have been the year after Ricky duped you on the pass, because we had conned our way into making the
we're press.
We had conned our way into making the people who run Comic-Con believe that we were press, which was a stretch for us at the time, because I think we had 2 listeners and one of them was James's dad. And so we made a website, we made emails, we really tried to make ourselves seem professional, and they gave us press passes.
I had to send them CDs with our MP3s
demos.
on them.
Yeah.
That like proof that we were doing a show. How crazy is that? This is before we could just upload the audio.
And we were on campus radio at SF State at the time, so we used that as our like, legitimate distribution platform. And I think we just used the call sign. We didn't say that it was like a student radio
KSFS.
show. Yeah, so we go down there and I do think I recall Jeff urging us like, hey guys, I know we just got here, but like we really should go tonight because this is press night. It's only open for press.
Yeah.
And after tonight, it's going to be insane. And I didn't know what to make of that. We went that first night. We got to see a lot of stuff. You could kind of freely like move around because there just weren't as many people on the floor. And then the next day we go and it's like full on nerd. And, you're like nut to butt with everybody. And you're kind of just like forced down lanes of people. Like some of your like freedom and agency goes away and you just like follow flows of crowd and then try to like get out when you see something interesting. But I do remember, like, I don't know why this struck me, but like I was reading a lot of Forgotten Realms books at the time and I saw the full-size statue of Drizzt and it's like, oh my god, this is like my happy place right here.
John was a big lover of art at the Comic-Con. I remember that a lot. And the Drizzt statue is just like that. Davis, what about your first con?
Oh man, my first con was back in 2012, the year before Mark. And I can just, what I pictured on that first time is walking down the street initially. And that's when it hit me, first of all. It's everywhere. I mean, you did a good job, showing the picture earlier, but I mean, there's banners across buildings, like draped down the whole length of the side of the building. It's just sprawled out into downtown San Diego. And all these experiences that you can do in the downtown area, I had no idea it was like this. And so it started there and just swarms, waves of people just going over the railway tracks up to the convention center through the doors. And then you're just, the line one starts there. And get ready to wait, baby, because that's going to be the day. But I mean, it was just, I was definitely more just kind of going on your guys' coattails that year too. I didn't know what to expect. The three of you had been there, and
was that the year we were staying at the Town and Country?
Yeah,
that was the year. That was Town and
Country. Good year.
That was a lot.
And
of fun.
it was epic. I mean, we had a blast. I know I spent a lot of time in the art area that year because I was just going through a bunch of the art. I wanted some different things for my wall, and I walked the floor probably more than ever.
You really have to like choose what to do with your time wisely, because you can definitely take the approach where you spend all weekend in panels and you still wouldn't be able to see, even like a quarter of them, or you could spend most of the weekend kind of roaming the floor and it would take you a while to even take all that in. Or you can do kind of a hybrid of both. And I think that year it was a little bit of both.
Yeah. I realized pretty quickly what I liked the most was the panels typically. And the more that I could see of those, it usually went a little bit better.
I feel like the panels, I love going to the panels as well, but our sort of eyes are always bigger than our stomach for the panels that we want to go to. Like, I love the night before going through the book and circling the ones that we want to go to and everything like that. It is a Comic-Con pastime that we do. But invariably when we're in the shit that is like crazy San Diego Comic-Con, it becomes more and more every year. It's like sacrifices have to be made, and so we there's just some certain ones that you don't end up going to. You have to make some tough choices because the programming is so stacked at Comic-Con, and we're going to get into some of our favorite panels and everything here in a little bit. But I did want to mention one more first-time memory, and you guys feel free to chime in with your own. But, I mentioned going to Hall H for the first time. And, again, no concept that this was even a thing, going to Comic-Con. But my first trip to the ticket redemption room, where they get swag. They give you swag if you were in certain panels because they hand out tickets. And so I was in Hall H that whole day, so I got tickets for all these different panels. So they give away some pretty cool stuff in there by and large. And one of my favorite things that I've gotten from any Comic-Con was a Camp Lehigh Captain America t-shirt that, I had for years and years following that. They also gave me a Thor one, a Harry Potter one, and just like all this cool swag that you can get from the Ticket Redemption Room. And it is a nice little sort of capper on a successful con weekend. And that first trip in there always stands out to me as my favorite one.
You gave me the Thor shirt, and I ended up wearing it a year later to the Thor movie. Yeah, I remember.
That's right.
That. Yeah.
That's right. Any other? I mean, Mark, you got Zombie Bacon your first trip. Any other first-time con purchases or acquisitions that anybody wants to talk about? Because that is the other thing the Comic-Con exclusives was sort of a foreign concept until arriving there, and then it just for a while dominated my life.
As far as exclusives went, because you, James, preconditioned me to needing to get exclusives, because for the 2 previous years you brought me things like a Lino with a glow-in-the-dark eyes, or the Masters of Evil villain set from Marvel Universe.
Oh, I forgot.
And so from there, I really wanted to at least get some sort of exclusive every year. And that first year, I got Zombie Bacon, which is exquisite. I know you're all jealous. And then I also got a Walter White from Mezco, which every year Mezco Toys does some amazing exclusives out there. And the Walter White they released from the Fly episode was awesome. As far as purchases go, those are 2 that I still have up in my curio here in the studio here. So love
Very
them.
cool. Davis, did you get anything that first year?
I think that first year was my Earthworm Jim action figure, which I had never seen.
Yes.
An Earthworm Jim figure. And I love that game on Sega.
It's a little late for the Sega debate, Davis. Sorry. They lost.
Was the best.
Sega was the best, agreed, but let's move on.
Should have been with you guys, I know. But yeah, that action figure, I just found it today moving. Again, I was looking at it. It's usually on my desk at work, but due to this whole thing, it's in storage. So, but I still love that figure.
Very cool. Jeff, did you get anything that first year or in your early years that maybe before us?
Exclusive wise, no, I didn't really know what exclusives were, and for the most part, I'm not always that into them. Other than those Dragon Ball Z Scouters that we got, those were great. And John had alluded to it before. Wednesday night is premiere night, and the only people that are allowed to go are those with 4-day passes. So it's definitely the smallest group that you're ever going to run into the entire weekend. And so if you want an exclusive, that's usually the night that we would jump on it. And John's first time was my first time ever having a 4-day pass since we had the press passes. So I was like, I want to go to exclusive night. I want to know what it's like.
Yeah, the moral of the story
club I was never a part of.
The moral of the story is start a podcast and try to con your way into getting a press pass, because it really is a superior experience.
This will be the last thing I share before we take a quick break, but I remember standing in line. I don't know if it was that first one where we had press passes. It might have been the year afterward. But
it was the first one.
We were like... we had some people complain. We had sort of bogarted our way in front of some people in line.
Yeah,
under the
when you're
that we were important.
When you're like registering to get your badges and your swag and everything like that, there's different lines, and so we were in the professional line, which is press, and then like any of the comic book artists and things like that. Well, even that line is ridiculous, and so James and I just like cut in front of so many people. And we started talking about what a big deal we were, and what a big deal the Best Damn Nerd Show was. And there were these people behind us that were not brave enough to tell us that we had cut them, but the girl was like muttering things like, "Can't be that big of a deal if cutting in line."
I just remember like they were like, would media really have to cut people in line? And it's like, or a podcast,
and we just didn't turn around, and they never addressed us personally. It was too passive aggressive to stop us.
The one remark I remember that sticks out is she just goes, "Not reputable ones, anyway." You were
I mean,
wrong.
she
Agreed.
She had a
Wrong.
point. Yeah. I mean, in retrospect, if this reboot grows and has a big audience, we might sound like dicks for taking advantage of this. But you got to understand, at the time, we had like 10 listeners, and even though we went with the intention of like creating content out of Comic-Con and having it be this big moment for our show,
Never happened.
we didn't create 1 second of content. We created great stories and great memories, but
We had a
never
good time.
We
never
tried to
recorded any
interview
of those.
people. Wait, there was a little bit at that Konami booth at that hotel.
Yeah, I
And it's
played,
like we did the
Brandon's,
interviews and stuff,
Flashpoint.
yeah. And
Oh,
Adam and I
oh my
eating all
God.
their food.
Yeah, so oh my god, that's a great memory, by the way. We
Yeah,
were
go
invited we were invited as press to a Konami booth to cover something that they were a bunch of games that they were putting out, and
It was a
I think
hospitality suite. First,
it was
of
a
all,
hospitality
off-site.
suite, and I think Jeff or someone just straight up asked, like, "Is there going to be food there?" Because it was like lunchtime, and they're like,
It was
"Yeah, of
either me
course."
or Adam. Yeah, either way,
Yeah.
we took total advantage of it.
and
And there
so
was
we
a
took our
trail
press
of bottles throughout the entire room.
I
We
think
took our
that
press
PR girl was
badges.
into me.
We took our press badges. We marched our way down to the Konami hospitality suite. We had some wonderful sliders and a bunch of mini cans of soda. Which, by the way, if you're gonna serve me soda in a mini can, I'm gonna need about 3 or 4 cans, and that's just how it's gonna be. And I'm
That's what
pressed,
happened.
so I'm gonna leave them. I'm gonna leave them on the ground. I'm gonna leave them on the arm of the sofa.
God.
I'm gonna leave them on the coffee table, on top of the TV, wherever I can.
I remember my first year. I think we went to the Konami suite as
We did.
well, and they had just a table full of booze, just open bar.
yeah.
Just take what you want, pour what you want.
Oh yeah, they
And
did.
it
And the
was
taco bar.
amazing.
Yeah.
And
No,
I wonder
Konami
why
does
we
it
never
right.
got invited back the next year. I don't know whatever
Well-
happened to that invite.
The Phantom had a wonderful time in that room.
That was so good.
No one says no to the Phantom, and the Phantom never says no to booze. We are going to circle back to some more great Comic-Con stories on the other side, but this is our Comic-Con retrospective on the Best Damn Nerd Show coming up. And welcome back to the Best Damn Nerd Show on the Tenno Media Network, the worldwide leader in all streaming entertainment. We are talking San Diego Comic-Con, and we are going to get into the heart of this episode and just some of our favorite things that have stood out over the years from San Diego Comic-Con. And I want to talk about some more of the panels to start with here, because I think the panels are, some things that if you haven't been to a convention before, they are things that you maybe, look forward to the most to going to. And I think our love of them has grown over the years, and we've gone to some really awesome ones. We've gone to some ones that have, fallen below our expectations. But I want to talk about some of our favorite, maybe least favorite, but maybe made a memory Comic-Con panels. The first one that I want to throw out, and Jeff, I know you'll have to help me with the years on this, because that's what you do. You're very good at that. But one of the ones that stands out to me the most was the Thundercats Reboot panel that we went to. Because were we coming back from the Konami suite?
It's
for one of those?
2011, yeah.
So, and that was one where I underestimated how long the line would be for it, and it was one of those where it was looking dicey if we were going to even get in at all. And it was the one panel that I wanted to go to the absolute most that year, because I'm a huge Thundercats fan. And although usually against reboots, except when it comes to this show, I still was excited for the Thundercats reboot, because the trailer that they had released at WonderCon was so good. So I was bought in, and I wanted to see. They were going to air the whole first episode, and they had a friend of the show, Matt Mercer, not on the panel, but he was on.
He was in reserve.
Yeah, he was in the reserves, but we made it in. They showed the whole first episode. I think pretty much all of us really enjoyed what we saw. But
Yeah.
that is one of those standout Comic-Con experience panels that really just lived up to the billing in my estimation. Jeff, can you care to elaborate?
On that particular panel?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those things we were racing back. It was in 6 BCF, which is like one of the much bigger rooms. It was one of those things where it was the line in the hall, so we didn't know if we were going to get in or not. It was real touch and go for a bit. But we got in. It was awesome. They played the entire episode, and then they had a panel afterwards with a few of the cast members. Will Friedle from Boy Meets World was the voice of Lion-O. I forget the girl's name. She had the dark hair. She was dating E on Entourage. She was, Chitara. And then I forget who else was there on the panel, but that was all awesome too. I mean, the room really rocked. They loved the show. I was not really that big of a Thundercats fan as a kid. So, I mean, this was kind of a better introduction for me. And I ended up becoming a big fan. And my girlfriend and I at the time, we actually would watch the show. Until it was abruptly canceled. But yeah, I really loved it. And it was thanks to that panel really kind of sold me on it.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that it was the energy in that room was one of the ones that was just really electric and everybody was really bought in and everything. And that really stood out to me. But I'll kick it over to the gallery here. Panels that stand out to you over the years, Marco?
One of them that really stood out and has since become a tradition for us now at Comic-Con is the John Behrman show hour.
Show.
It's one-man show, just him dressed in drag as some cosplay, answering any and all questions and tell-alls of his career. And it's been going on for maybe 4, it would have been like maybe the 5th year this year, something like that. But that is just a standout because it's usually at the kickoff of the convention. And it's such a feel-good and experience and just full of love. And while it's not necessarily like promoting one thing or another, it's just this all-inclusive like hug moment with thousands of people. And so that's always become a quintessential for me. And I know it's not like a set experience within that, but perhaps one of like the biggest things like for geeking out on though was one of our first years we went to a Mortal Kombat panel, and I remember one of the creators was at the table and he was the guy that actually did the "get over here" for Scorpion, and he let that rain over the crowd live for us, which just made me geek the fuck out.
It's Ed Boon. It's the creator of Mortal Kombat.
And that was so cool to have that happen just live after that being like ingrained in your head as a youth year over year. So
playing it on your Sega,
a big standout. But more recent as far as panels go, gotta say Ultraverse has been a big player at Comic-Con the last few years, which, as you know, Jeff and I do the Ultra Monthly podcast. Check it out on Spotify.
You will never let us forget it.
But big thing this past year at the Ultraverse 26th anniversary panel, yours truly was featured up on the big screen.
Yes.
First BDNS host up on the show.
Whoa.
Gotta say.
It's a big moment.
As an Ultra fan.
Did they crash?
But still, I was up on the big screen in a slideshow.
So like speaking, like presenting, doing a Q&A panel?
It's kind of like my mocap work I did in Marvel vs. Capcom.
Yeah.
And they may or may not have referenced another Ultraverse podcast
it doesn't matter.
On that slideshow, which is also defunct for years. And we have done more episodes.
I wasn't going to bring it up, but I also...
it's right, too.
Jeff is scorned.
My favorite...
I took that beautiful picture they used.
My favorite moment because I was looking forward to going to that Ultraverse panel with you guys, because you do a great job on the Ultra Monthly podcast, and just in talking to you guys about it, you paint a great picture about Malibu Comics and stuff. So I was very excited for the panel, and I think the one maybe at WonderCon that year was maybe better organized, because the one I went to at Comic-Con, I remember Mark at one point just going, like the bloom is dead. But then he restored himself by finding some original art, and sort of he restoked the fires. But I just remember that, be like, no, you guys love this stuff. So I'm glad that you were able to reignite yourself. Jeff, throw out a panel that stands out to you.
Well, I mean, if we're talking John Barrowman, we got to talk the patron saint of the BDNS at Comic-Con, and that's Richard Hatch. And the Richard Hatch panels. So say we all, R.I.P. Much love to Richard Hatch, who was for years the single torch holder of Battlestar Galactica, which still blows my mind because that's such a huge franchise in sci-fi. And if not for his constant pushing, I don't think it would have had a presence at San Diego Comic-Con, which blows my mind. I mean, I think it was a year or two before I first started going. he actually was in Hall H, unveiling like his like
Star
trailer
Trek
that
film?
he had. No, it was the trailer that he created for like a sequel series to Battlestar Galactica. It was before they did the reboot. He wanted to do the next generation in that world, so it would be the children of like Boomer and Apollo. And then he, as Apollo, would have taken more the commander / Admiral Adama spot, where it's like that's kind of what he grew up into being, which was really cool. And I mean, he's the one who also was like writing books and stuff like that. So, but I mean, his panels were great because he's so good at interacting with the fans. It was ripe with jokes. It blows my mind how almost nobody else would attend the panels with him, or people would come in late, and then he would have to drag up actors who played like Cat on the series, as opposed to anybody who mattered. Let's face it, on the show.
Wasn't there one year like everybody was stuck in traffic and it was
everybody bailed? Nobody showed up on time, and
that was our first one, and that is my favorite panel at Comic-Con because it was the beginning of the meme, the original source, and so many great memories came out of that weekend because of that panel.
I completely agree. Jeff alluded to it beautifully, is that Richard Hatch was the torchbearer for a really important fandom in Battlestar Galactica. And, we can touch on this a little bit more later, but, I think Edward James almost, sort of hinted to that at the tribute panel for Hatch, and the idea that it's kind of sad that he had to do it in large part alone. But at that time, while he was still alive and thriving, man, he loved interacting with the fans at Comic-Con. And he legitimately, I remember one of the panels, it might have been WonderCon, but he just wanted fans to come up, share their ideas, perhaps to pitch them to studios. But,
he's like, I'm all out. What do you got, kid?
But the birth...
That actually was a go-to Hatch tactic. I think he did it in multiple panels.
Yeah, let me write that down.
What do you got? What part would I play?
Can I just submit an alternative theory? Because that first year when we fell in love with Hatch, and the joke started, the story was that all of the other panelists that were supposed to be there with him were stuck in traffic because of some big accident and they weren't able to be there. I submit to you, given what we know about Richard Hatch and Battlestar panels since then, no, there were no other panelists. No one was ever going to show up.
Didn't he call one of them on the phone?
He might have negotiated that with Comic-Con, like with and they were hoping that everyone would show up, or they imagined that everyone would show up, and it's like, no, it was just Hatch the whole time. Like, no one.
Yeah, they're like, Edward James Olmos, Katie Sackhoff. It's like, that's going to be a big panel, and then just Hatch shows up, going to the freebies table. Get himself a bagel.
And again, this is no disrespect to Hatch, because we are all, everyone here, I feel like I have to give this disclaimer because we are not desecrating his grave. Everyone here loves Hatch, and we love him so much that he became the subject of our mockery for the remainder of the weekend.
It is really jokes that come from the heart. Like, I mean, we adore Richard Hatch.
Yeah.
And it came from a story that he told about Dirk Benedict making lunches in his trailer, and he got excited about it.
Yeah, he's telling this elaborate story about Dirk Benedict having all these women coming in and out of his trailer, and Hatch kind of jealous. And then the grand reveal, the prestige of this story is that Dirk Benedict is just making lunches in there for everybody, and he was astounded that he was giving everybody free lunch. So out of that germ of a punchline in that story, it just unfurled that, and again, all out of love, because as Jeff and I met him, he's was such a wonderful guy and such a nice person, but out of that born these jokes out of love that he was looking for work, he was probably homeless, was hungry, and
broken,
just jumping from convention to convention. That's all he does.
Yeah, doing signings.
And I mean, it really was, and it remains one of my favorite Comic-Con memories are the Hatch jokes, and it is one of the most enduring jokes of Best Damn Nerd Show's history, to the point where I was astounded that and forgive me, I don't remember which listener it was, messaged me on Instagram that they had gone to a convention and attempted to give him a Subway sandwich because we were making so many jokes on the show about Hatch just wanted free sandwiches. Just like the fact that it reached that level, to me, is one of my favorite things about Comic-Con, about this whole damn show. And it is thanks to Richard Hatch and the Hatch tags, the Hatch jokes. It is,
well, something that people have to understand too, because this is a reboot. Like we're still refamiliarizing people with us. When we latch on to something like that, when we latch on to something like Hatch, we see how deep we can go with the joking. So the premise is that he's broke and destitute, and the delight of the weekend just becomes who can get more creative about exploiting that on behalf of jokes. And Davis brought something up before the show that he and I were both like supposed to leave San Diego.
Oh, my favorite.
This is the best. Yeah.
Davis, do you want to?
No, you go ahead.
We were all at the hotel, and I think James and Jeff are staying another night,
another couple nights. I think.
Yeah, but Davis and I both had to leave, and I had to drive back to Los Angeles, so I really had to leave. We had like scheduled like, all right, 6 p.m. we're going, and then 6 p.m. hits, and we're still making Hatch jokes, and we stayed in the hotel room till I don't even know what 10, 11 p.m. making Hatch jokes. Just five additional hours of Hatch jokes.
It was the best because you and Davis were packing your bags, and so James and I sat at the table to kind of get out of your way, but we were all just talking, and we were just bouncing the Hatch jokes off of each other, and it was like the most fluid thing ever. You guys are done packing your bags, you just grabbed chairs and came over to the table, and we're just sitting in a circle passing the Hatch joke across from one another. I mean, every year, there's always that ongoing joke for the weekend with the convention. The Hatch one is the one that's endured more than any other. And I feel like it really metamorphosized into something immortal when we were doing it that night because it was so classic. Yeah, I wish we had it recorded. It was so perfect.
I was just going to say...
Not even for the show, just for us.
We were on such a level, and again, I feel like Tenacious D with the "You Gotta Believe Me" and "I Wish You Were There" in terms of playing the greatest song in the world, but we were on such a level, not missing a beat, just with joke after joke that kept getting more absurd, but still fitting completely within the theme. And I think we just had like a bag of the like Munchies chips, and John and Davis just weren't leaving. It's just because we couldn't. There was no note in which like, all right, now it's time to go, kind of deal, and that singular night is probably my favorite Best Damn Nerd Show Comic-Con moment. It was so much fun. It was so funny. You had to be there.
Sorry, Mark.
Sorry, I didn't even mean that towards you, Mark. I meant that towards the listeners. I'm shitting on them, not you.
BDNS at Comic-Con peaked years before you were a part of it.
I just remember my first Comic-Con when the rest of you guys were there. It was like, we have to go to this Richard Hatch panel. We have to go to this tell-all Richard Hatch for Battlestar. And I'm like, I'm not. That's how we start the weekend at the time. Like, but yeah, you guys are selling it. Let's go. I remember like 5 minutes go by, and I'm like, man, this room's empty. 10 minutes go by, I'm like, what the fuck is this guy rambling about? 15, 20. I'm like, guys, I'm going. I don't know what's happening here. I need to leave.
Yeah, you had to go collect your Legos. They put him in one of the biggest rooms. They put him in the same room that was the Thundercat premiere,
which, by the way,
it was always at half capacity. Wait, what?
He deserves that big room.
Oh, he deserves that room, if not bigger. Honestly, that's Richard Hatch we're dealing with here. But oh man, and the sad thing is, the year that he passed, they did have these amazing tribute panels. WonderCons was really good. I thought it was the side panel at San Diego Comic-Con that was an even better tribute panel. It was like some independent movie that he had worked on. Yeah. And the entire cast and the crew, they all had like these wonderful stories about Richard Hatch. It's one thing when a person passes away, there's always a lot of positive stories. When Hatch was alive, he was one of the few people I remember that nobody ever had anything negative to say about. He always stops and talks to the fans. He was amazing to James and I when we took a photo with him, and that we got to just kind of talk to him for a little bit too, which was so really awesome.
Incredibly gregarious and just so good with all of the fans, and that is a prevailing thing. And you're right, that side panel was really special. And again, you hit on it perfectly. He kept the torch lit for Battlestar Galactica. I talked about this in Hall H when Jon Favreau came out and made sure that, he had footage from Cowboys and Aliens to show the fans and had Robert Downey Jr. come through the crowd and stuff like that. Like, Jon Favreau gets what Comic-Con's about. Richard Hatch understood what all of those conventions were about and what those, those fans were what, made, so much of it enduring. And so, yeah, it was very sad to lose him, but continue, Jeff. I'm sorry.
Oh, but yeah, last year would have been the second convention without him, and there were no BSG panels. And it's just like, how quickly they kind of went back to their routine, and without Hatch there to carry the torch like we've been talking about, it just fell to the wayside again. And it's not fair to a property like that. It's not fair to Richard Hatch's memory. And I'm hoping that Battlestar Galactica at some point kind of picks itself up again.
Honestly, if they need someone to pick up that mantle, Nerd Show is here, and we are ready. We are ready to.
Yeah,
we
Katie
will
Sackhoff.
We will honor his memory, and we will honor the show.
But not for a room smaller than 6 BCF. We do it exactly how Hatch does it.
Absolutely.
All we need is a couple Subway sandwiches and 6 BCF, and we're good.
There was one year for James's birthday, I was posting something on Facebook. I was looking forever for a picture.
God.
I find a picture of Richard Hatch at a signing table with 2 salads in front of him, and he's just giving 2 thumbs up and the biggest smile. And I wrote him like this caption. I forget exactly how it went, but it was like, "Oh, hey there! I hear you're a fan of BSG. It's like, do you know if you McDonald's is offering birthday salads? If you buy one at regular price, you get another one free. So if you could float me some credits, we'll be
all good.
Yeah, we'll be sitting in some salads,
dude. We can only hope that Nerd Show, gets panels like that, and that some of our gracious listeners create memes out of us and make fun of us and make jokes at our expense this way, because it's so special.
If we get a panel, we're giving out sandwiches in honor of.
Well, hold on, no one's greenlit that budget, Davis. They're supposed to give us sandwiches.
As long as they're provided by the convention. Yeah.
Yeah.
People better start clicking on that Amazon link.
The prevailing thing that's so prevalent was the Richard Hatch, and this is the last thing I'll say about the Hatch jokes, is that, I played this game Hero Quest with Jeff, that I named one of the major characters in that game after Richard Hatch. It was Dick Hatch the Broke. But I would always give him all the gold that we got from every quest.
He was your best character.
He was great. I had so much fun.
He was the wizard.
He was so much fun to play as. We can't talk about Comic-Con or the panels without talking about when the Court of Owls in DC was running wild. Scott Snyder's landmark Batman tale from the New 52. And, we talk about things that we maybe have gotten from the convention and exclusives. My favorite thing that I've walked out of a Comic-Con with are those damn owl masks that they handed out that we had so much fun with during that Comic-Con. It gave birth to owl stuff where, again, we were staying in hotel rooms together. And so there's some great photos. Gosh, we need to, we have to rethink our inks. But there's some great photos of like Davis, Jeff, John, and I all in like bed together wearing these owl masks, and we called it like our family portrait. There's some great,
Davis came out of the closet behind me when I was brushing my teeth.
Forever burned in my memory will be Davis peeking around the corner naked with just the owl mask on. Like, I mean, I've seen Davis naked many times because that's just kind of his thing, but that image of the owl mask on will forever haunt me.
I had to check around the corner, man. And then I had to bring it back for Jeff's bachelor party where I was waiting for him in the bathtub.
The owl
mask on.
For like 15 minutes, you were just sitting in that tub naked.
I was in that tub for so long.
That is so
quite comfortable, though.
How enduring we have to post the video from that.
How enduring some of these Comic-Con memories and jokes are is that, yes, we asked Davis to bring the owl mask, and so when we were waiting for the suite for Jeffy's arrival for his glorious bachelor party, Davis hiding in his underwear, just wearing the owl mask for an inordinate amount of time. And I thought Jeff saw him right away, and I thought Jeff was playing dumb, and I thought the gag was ruined, but it was not. And I'm just a moron. Good.
Yeah. Yeah, you do have footage of my reaction. I remember that.
Yes.
I like fell over the bed laughing. And then he reset so he could do it to Tim and John, who hadn't arrived yet.
You would think I would be used to it by now, having lived with Davis, but it's always a shocking moment.
You've been away for far too long, my friend.
Yeah.
It'll get you.
The owl masks. Just really the Court of Owls stuff. That whole weekend was really cool. I want Jeff and Davis. Davis, we'll start with you. The Indigo Ballroom has become a tradition for you guys, and so just take us through what that is and just the things that you guys do over there.
Yeah, the Indigo Ballroom is, especially on Saturday, I believe.
Friday.
Saturday, right, Jeff?
Friday. Yeah.
Friday. Has been a tradition of Jess and I where we'll pretty much camp there most of the day. And the first few years that we went, that's what we did. And it was just, you walk right in and you're getting, you get all the H. John Benjamin stuff. You get Adult Swim. So you got Bob's Burgers, Archer, and then all this other stuff in between. And so you can just kind of hang out there all day. And so we just pack in food. We're not leaving. We're not gonna buy those convention center hot dogs or anything like that. We got we brought in Subway sandwiches in honor of Hatch, I believe. So
Yeah.
But H. John Benjamin and Aisha Tyler, they get 2 panels in a row pretty much for H. John does with
he
Archer,
does.
and then Aisha usually hosts the Bob's Burgers one. And so they just go back and forth all the time. And those 2 panels are just so naturally funny. Like everybody on them. Jessica Walter, I'm pretty sure, shows up quite drunk every time. And she
because they all drink
she
backstage.
doesn't know what's going on. But the most odd panel that we've gotten in the Indigo, I gotta say, was the Eric Andre show. Nobody knew what it was. And I'm not sure anybody still knows what that show is. But it was just him and Hannibal Buress came up, and it was one of the funniest hours I've had at Comic-Con, because just Jeff and I just watching the clips that they had brought. And Eric Andre and Hannibal are obviously 2 very funny people, but
it was our introduction to the show, and we became diehard fans after that. I remember the first time a season started after that Comic-Con, I was texting Davis excitedly. I was like, Eric Andre's on tonight.
Somehow it's still greenlit and it's still going on the air.
They never came back to Comic-Con, though. They never allowed them to be a part of the Adult Swim panel again.
But the Indigo since then has, it's not to Hall H level, obviously, but people are starting to line up at 3-4 a.m. for the Indigo now, because Rick and Morty, Adventure Time, they're all there, and they're all pretty early too. And so people have started doing what we were doing, and they're staying most of the day there. So I think it was the 3rd or 2nd year that we waited in line. It was only maybe an hour and a half, but then the year after that, we weren't sure we were going to see anything. I think we were in line for 5 hours, Jeff.
It was bad. It completely screwed up our Friday.
Yeah. I think that same year I camped out through 3 sessions out there, where thankfully I had a little pop-up tripod stool someone gave me.
Yeah.
And I won a free copy of the Iron Giant playing trivia while waiting in line.
Way to go, Mark.
But it was gnarly. Ever since then, I don't think I've been to Indigo since.
Well, Davis has almost suffered from heat stroke multiple times in that line.
It was so bad. It was so hot, and we were not prepared. I had sunscreen, but it just I'm a pale man. You can see the shine happening if you're watching the video.
You're damn near translucent.
You make me look
bad,
tan.
And we didn't have stools, and once we got to some stairs against the wall, we finally got to trade off sitting down, and we were just sitting on the ground. That year was brutal, and I think that's probably the last year that we went to Indigo, because we only saw 2 panels that year.
Yeah, it was in 2011 that we tried to go to just the Archer panel, which is what ends the night there. And at that point, you can't get in because the line is too much. So then Davis and I had the bright idea. It's Adult Swim's not bad, so we'll just sit in the room the entire day. And that worked for a few years. And then Adventure Time became the opening panel in that room. And then, Rick and Morty once that became like middle of the day for Adult Swim, I mean, the crowds are ridiculous. And yeah, it's gotten to the point where we can't do it anymore, unfortunately. But it was a good run while it lasted, especially because Bob's Burgers panel would always give you a free bag, and it was a different bag every year. And Archer would always give you a different T-shirt. And then the one year where it was Archer Vice, you got a T-shirt and sunglasses. I still have the sunglasses.
And then we saw the one clip that was a Frisky Dingo Archer combo.
Exactly, yeah. They did the
That
Exticles
only
reference
we got
and
to
everything.
see.
Yeah, only we saw it.
Yeah.
And they didn't end up putting it on the show. So
Yeah. Congrats.
Yeah, they axed it. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's
we
too
had
bad.
James on that for how long did we have you? About a whole day that we
Yeah.
had you believing that they were actually going to do that crossover.
Yeah, he
Certainly-
believed his
certainly that
friends were. Yeah, I think we ended up taking Mercy, and it's like we can't keep leading them on like this. That's a really shitty thing
Well,
to do.
I don't think Davis's poker face was much for it by the end, but I think Jeff, you had me on the hook pretty good because Frisky Dingo is such a sacred cow to you and I was like, oh my god, and it's got the same animation and stuff like that would totally fit in, especially since they made some C-Lab references.
Well, that's what kind of bums me out about it is, I mean, yeah, it's the same creators, and they did actually even visit C-Lab. I would have liked a few more inside jokes with that C-Lab episode, like with Pod 6 and everything. But they've made references to Frisky Dingo. They even had the Excal armor, like blueprints or whatever in the background in Krieger's office and stuff like that. But they mentioned it one time. I think Adam Reed said there was too much that was owned by Cartoon Network or whatever, or TNT maybe, that they couldn't. So yeah, it didn't carry over, unfortunately.
There's a couple things I want to get to before we go to the world premieres that we always do. One thing in terms of like the unpredictability that you can see at Comic-Con, some cool stuff happened in real time. Jeff, you were there for this. We went to the WWE Mattel action figure panel, and it was the first year we went to that. It was a pretty small room, certainly not one of the super big ones. But they had like all the stars there, Bret Hart, Rey Mysterio, Triple H, a bunch of other people there. And this was while, again, and I will keep this brief, non-wrestling fans, but this is while there was a storyline going on where in canon, CM Punk had been fired. And so he was not on TV at the time. And so they opened it up to Q&A, and a bunch of wrestling fans are asking questions. I remember one in particular that Triple H was making fun of. Probably wouldn't do that today. But the moderator goes, okay, we got time for one more question, and the door at the back of the room kicks open, and there's CM Punk with a bullhorn going, yeah, I got a question, and the whole crowd just went ape shit. And there's video of it on YouTube where the crowd just surrounds him, and it is just going wild, and it is one of the most indelible panel moments of Comic-Con that I've been a part of. Jeff, you're not even a CM Punk fan, but that was pretty badass.
The entire crowd popped, save one man, Jeff Budd. I stood there and I was unimpressed.
It was still a cool moment.
I don't like him. No, but as far as from a wrestling standpoint goes, I thought that was really awesome. But yeah, I do not like CM Punk at all. I find him very unimpressive. I'm glad that he's gone. Fuck him. Yeah.
All right. I want to get into the world premieres. No, go ahead.
I think it's great that WWE shows up and is present all the time, especially for like the there's been times where they're doing the action figure line, comic book series, or even their movie line, the WWE films, where there's like the Leprechaun and See No Evil 2 and so forth. But two of my like standout memories of Comic-Con is WWE related, where one of them, I think it was like possibly my second year. I remember walking down the hall near 6 BCF, and Kevin Owens was right next to me, just like strutting down, looking all angry, and I was too intimidated to say hi because he looked fully in character. And that was like one of my first times actually seeing one of like our geek celebrities in the flesh at the con. And I was just like, oh, he's a bad motherfucker. I can't say hi to him. Like, not at all. And I just like leered in the corner. And then a couple years ago, we somehow got into the hall early, just before the rest of the crowd started getting in. And I remember running across Zack Ryder and throwing out a woo woo woo.
You know,
and he turned around.
Sup?
But I got a photo anyway. I was bothering him while he was buying action figures. I was like, "Can I get a photo?" Sure.
Well, I'm glad you
And
got
I
the
love
photo.
it.
You should have said you know it then too.
It's a cool dude. Mark, I want to kick it over to you as well because you've had some interesting interactions with some of the creators that you really like. Mark is more the signature hound on his comic books than any of us are, and so I know you've had some interesting interactions over the years at the con.
So
One of my
as far
favorites.
as Comic-Con goes, about comic books, that's what I'm really into. I love comic books. I still read comic books all the time. Lots of new series, throwing money at them constantly. So when I go to the conventions, I love to signature hunt, like James said. I usually have a pre-printed out list of the creators, their booths, if there's special times they're at, what books I'm bringing, key issues for them to sign. And throughout the years, I've gotten to meet Scott Snyder and got to talk to him about his work and get a bunch of signatures. Judd Winnick, whose run on Green Arrow was absolutely fantastic. Peter J. Tomasi, Tom King.
Marv Wolfman.
Marv Wolfman was at WonderCon, so I was saving it for another time.
Okay.
And San Diego Comic Fest.
Check it out on the Ultra Monthly podcast. There's a nice in-depth meeting with Marv Wolfman.
That's a good tease, folks.
But yeah, there's been a couple instances as well that really stand out where I got to meet finally Kyle Higgins, who is this awesome author. Not only did Batman Gates of Gotham, but did his own creator-owned series Cowl, did an amazing run on Nightwing, did a bunch of seminal work on Power Ranger comics that's really revitalized that whole series. And I remember getting to wait to see him because there's this new thing happening at Comic-Con where all the key name people are actually guests of like a third-party agency. So they're no longer just meeting fans for free, like they're charging people for visits and signatures. But some authors get, maybe you get 1-2 signatures free, things like that. And James was with me. Good old James, good guy, good friend, right?
Hey, friendly
so he was going to help me
get
an extra signature. And I remember standing in line with him.
Wait. Hold on.
So I had 3 books.
Mark had 3 books, and Kyle Higgins was signing 2 for free. And an old bimbo Jimbo didn't have a panel to be at, so I was hanging with Mark, getting some quality time. And Mark very nervously, he's like, "Hey, do you think you can get him to sign one of these so he doesn't have to pay this creator that he purports to be such a big fan of? I've
given so much money to him.
Doesn't want to have to lay down his own money. So
but all these books.
Sure, I'll take a book." And Mark showed me what he had. He happened to have a Captain America comic. Huge Captain America fan that I am. I was like, I was wearing a Captain America shirt. I was like, this makes sense story-wise.
No, that is a complete false interpretation of how the events transpired. Because I remember sitting there, I had 3 books. I was like, I cannot wait to meet this guy. I love all these different works he's done. I even have this one comic. It was a Captain America comic. This was the first professional comic book he ever written. I cannot wait to get to show him this and be like, this was your first work. And to have him sign it, and you plucked it from my hands to take that memory from me. And so when we finally meet him and
Mark,
he signs my books nonchalant, Cal, whatever. Nightwing, whatever. And then you came up, it's like, I got this book I've never read. And he's like, that was the first book I ever wrote.
I said, amazing. I know.
Wow, what
That's
a callback. Wow, what a deep dive. Thank you for bringing this, James.
I said, I know. That's why I brought it. I'm such a big fan. And it was a really lovely interaction that Mark got to have like an out-of-body experience. So Mark got to have the experience while also witnessing it from a different point of view.
No.
Like, really, I helped you, Mark. You have an even clearer vision of it in your mind's eye than you would have. You would have choked.
God.
I helped you.
You stole his moment.
I stole
James.
I was wearing a Captain America shirt. It was a Captain America book. It made total sense. Mark was the one not wanting to pony up the dough, and now he has a great memory because of it.
Those prices.
I buy those books every month from him, full cover price.
He doesn't get that. That's the guy goes to the company. Mark, you're taking bread out of that guy's pocket. You should be ashamed of yourself, and now you're trying to revision his history.
It's a real Red Skull thing to do.
No, it was very Captain America. It was great. He was a very nice guy, though, and he was stoked that I brought that book to him.
Yeah. He is very nice.
He was very
does some great writing.
Check
Check him out. Kyle Higgins' work on a number of different properties is really good.
All right, Ballroom 20 world premieres, something that we do pretty much every year at Comic-Con. I believe the first one was Flashpoint Paradox, yes, that we did.
Yes,
and
that we went to, yeah.
And still stands as the very best that we've seen, in my opinion, in Ballroom 20. The DC Flashpoint Paradox animated movie is one of my all-time favorites. It's so good. But, feel free to touch on that. Maybe ones, because there's been some that have really been stinkers lately that have missed the mark. Jeff?
Well, yeah, Comic-Con used to be, the DC animated film that would premiere there was always a good one, and WonderCon, for whatever reason, got the crappy ones like Son of Batman with Damian Wayne. But the past few years, they did like a couple of shitty ones. But, I mean, one that I really liked was Justice League Gods and Monsters. It was a year that you weren't there, James, but Mark, you saw it with me. I think we stayed and just watched it again.
We watched it twice. We watched it, saw the panel, stayed and watched it again.
Yeah, that's how they do it on Friday nights, which is awesome. They'll play the movie, then they have a panel with the cast and crew, and then if you want to stick around, they will play the movie again, encore. And so, yeah, we hung out again and just watched it all over. It's a Elseworld story where Superman is... the son of Zod instead. And so he's much more militaristic. He's much more abrasive. He doesn't land in Kansas. He's raised by these migrant workers. So like his attitude towards the American government and just kind of like people interacting with each other is totally different. It's a different Batman. He's a vampire and it's Man-Bat, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Basically Man-Bat turned into a Batman-esque.
Yeah, exactly. And then Wonder Woman is Big Barda or whatever, right?
Maybe.
Yeah,
I'm trying to recall now.
I think so, yeah. Artemis? Yeah, it's not Diana. So it's the three of them, and so that's the Justice League, and it's much more authoritarian. They really just have a stranglehold on the world, which is kind of interesting. And so, yeah, that was yeah. And well, no, they have the comic book series of it, but it's like very, it was very small though. And it was the kind of thing where it's like, I really would have liked to have seen that world explored more because I just loved it that much.
There have been some that have not landed. Batman and Harley Quinn comes to mind as one of the just absolute worst pieces of just crap entertainment that you could ever see. Davis, what was your take on Batman and Harley Quinn?
You guys didn't like that one? Wasn't your favorite, huh?
She defeated the villain by farting at the very end. That was
I
how
think they all farted.
They all farted.
There's a lot
of
it
was a team effort.
It was trash.
That was one of the most despicable films I've had to sit through in some time. We wanted to leave, I want to say 25 minutes into it. It was just, it was Harley Quinn focused. It was childish.
Well,
it was, I mean, yes, it's for kids.
Well, Batman, I was gonna say
but
Batman
then they
and
also
Harley
say
Quinn.
that it's not for kids because then
one...
it's like sexually graphic and they have the F word and then there's some other stuff and they're telling us that these are adult movies and I'm fine with it being goofy, but it's just like it was dumb. It was just a dumb film.
I just remember that it did not do well. It was not great. Just
and it
to
was
be
not well
frank,
received.
Even though our boy Dick Grayson got some trim, and he hooks up with Harley Quinn.
Stupid, which was completely
regardless,
unnecessary and stupid.
Regardless, nucks to my boy. You know what I mean? But it was not a great movie. But it didn't stop me from. I ran into Bruce Timm on the floor,
and you punched him in the face.
No, dude, I totally sucked. I was like, Batman Harley Quinn was so great. Thank you, sir.
Sell out.
God,
I couldn't help it.
You are the DC lapdog.
I couldn't help it. And he couldn't care less. He was like, ugh, whatever.
Well, because he knows it wasn't great. He knows it wasn't great. Batman and Harley Quinn was terrible.
But the premieres are awesome. And I love that they do that every single Friday night, and that it's become a tradition at WonderCon, like you said, and SDCC. Because there are really good ones. I mean, aside from just Flashpoint Paradox, which is awesome, and the Gods and Monsters. There was also the Death of Superman, which was
good.
such a tearjerker. Their adaptation of that, and which is interesting because they already previously did the Death of Superman animated feature a few years back, which was Superman Doomsday, which was still good. But this iteration of it just really pulled on the heartstrings in there. And then even the Suicide Squad,
Assault on Arkham. Hell to Pay was at WonderCon. Yeah, Assault on Arkham was the first one that they did.
Yeah, and Assault on Arkham was really good.
I watched that one twice that year too. Yeah,
I love
really
the lead up to Batman: The Killing Joke when I interviewed the voice of Batman, Kevin Conroy, and I had the distinct pleasure of referring to Mark as my cameraman, to which he has never forgiven me. Mark, what's up, man?
Yeah, so we go to do this press interview, and James and I are busting out some hours, typing out some great questions.
Like
Best question from this guy, because knowing Kevin Conroy loves to sing. So James ends up throwing him this question about, how do you like to sing in a Batman episode or whatever? And Kevin Conroy's like, that's an amazing question. Yes, blah, 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 blah. And James is like, yeah, my cameraman came up with that. And Kevin doesn't even look at me, doesn't even acknowledge me, sitting there.
I'm recognizing a pattern.
yeah, just a bit.
He's a total Bob Kane. I'm the Bill Finger. I got ideas. He takes all the credit.
In that we are in total agreement. You didn't do shit. I did everything.
I love that so early on in Nerd Show Reboot's life, we're clearly establishing that even though James likes to think of himself as Aang, even though James likes to think of himself as the primary protagonist, he truly is the antagonist in these episodes.
Please.
Couldn't even give my name to Kevin Conroy.
You're an anti-hero at best.
My non-union cameraman that's shaking like a leaf over there. Yeah, he told me to ask that. God. That was one of my favorite ones. However, the Killing
He's like,
Joke...
where's your camera?
No, we actually had one that year, which is good. I mean, we didn't do anything.
It might have been a flip.
But what can you do? It was too shaky. But the Killing Joke itself created some controversy. Because they had Batman sleep with Batgirl, which was just a weird decision. And the Q&A afterward, people were really up in arms about that one. And I think the Killing Joke maybe had the most hype, and I think the most sort of rancor following it. Jeff, would you agree?
Yeah, and I mean, we didn't stay for the Q&A, so I don't think we were really digging it all that much. And it wasn't just a random person asking the question and confronting them. It was a comic book writer was screaming at them. And it got
Brian Azzarello was not backing down from it either.
Yeah, it got very confrontational. If there's a Q&A I wish I could have attended, it's that one. I wish we had stayed a little bit longer, but we were like, the movie wasn't that great. We don't really need to hear what anybody has to say about it. I mean, it's not so much that I would call it one of the bad ones that they played at San Diego Comic-Con, but I mean, it doesn't leave a lasting impression.
It's funny because that, ladies and gentlemen, is a Best Damn Nerd Show Reboot exclusive, because in canon on the original show, we did stay for the Q&A, but the truth is not. We did not stay for the Q&A.
Oh, we're pulling back the curtain.
Anything we say.
Yeah. Mark, what did you think about Killing Joke?
I mean, Killing Joke was still good. Yeah, they added in an extra 30 minutes of content that didn't exist to try to fill it out. But at the end of the day, I mean, I'm always going to be really open-minded about adapting things and adding things and changing their medium. So what they did there wasn't necessarily bad, because they were trying to add in content for why you care more about Batgirl, because she's really peripheral in the Killing Joke. The story as a whole, for all the terrible things that transpire for Barbara Gordon, you don't have enough invested in her as a standalone movie. So I get why they were trying to do that. However, with Batman Hush, the liberties they took with that narrative and changed in the story for the purpose of just that film of making the Riddler was Hush. It had no point in happening. It completely took away from the story, to the point where both Jeff and Davis, who weren't familiar with the story, were like, wow, I thought it was the Doctor friend the whole time. It is.
It's supposed to be.
It is. It's supposed to be. They changed it.
It blew my mind.
To where it should have been.
I've never seen
Yeah.
smiles turn upside down into frowns quicker than Davis and I when you dropped that on us. We were like, hey, it wasn't that bad. Yeah, I thought it was that doctor guy. Yeah, me too. And then Mark just going, it was. They changed it. It destroys the entire movie.
Yeah,
And then also, I don't really
twist.
appreciate them saying that the Riddler sucked as a villain and they needed to do something like that to him. Because then that's what the panel was about, was them saying it's like, yeah, we took a crap B or even C tier Batman villain and made him relevant. It's like the Riddler?
Then how is Batman Hush consistently on their 25 most essential graphic novels list that they release every single year? It's always Batman Hush. Jim Lee's Batman Hush. It's on there. How is it so terrible that they have to wipe out Hush?
Yeah.
Hush as themselves cannot exist in the animated universe. Like, anyway.
Yeah. That was
the biggest travesty I saw up on those screens.
I mean, I think Batman and Harley Quinn was still still the worst, but God, that was terrible. All right, I want to, before we take one more break, you know, we have a tradition of going out in the gas lamp at Comic-Con as well in San Diego and getting into some debaucherous times. And, you know, we've had a lot of fun doing that. And I want to circle back to my very first Comic-Con, which is obviously the first time that I did that. And we went a bar hopping, Jeff, myself, our friend Chanley, Ricky, and her uncle. And we got kicked out of at least one bar. I believe maybe two. The first one, I think, was, and Jeff, you can correct my memory if I'm wrong. I know Ricky threw up at one bar and was thrown out. Her uncle was kicked out of another one, I believe, for being shirtless. Sort of Davis can attest to that one.
Like that, man.
He can at least appreciate that. But this might be my first. It's not my first trip to San Diego, but this is my first trip to San Diego as a full-formed adult, and it still is one of my favorite sort of outings post Comic-Con. And Ricky Replay is just absolutely in her cups. Again, kicked out for vomiting. And then we find her across the street talking to this just like stereotypical, you know, as neckbeard as they come nerd who we have affectionately referred to as Child of the Earth because
that's how he referred to himself.
Yeah, that is how he referred to himself.
That's where the nickname came from, yeah.
As Child of the Earth. He's trying to make time with Ricky, espousing whatever virtues as a Child of the Earth is, and we are putting to a stop to that, and then her uncle put a much more aggressive stop to that by, you know, almost decking the guy.
Yeah.
Before we had to get indisposed Ricky back to the motel room, and then we drew all over her, which was
we drew all over her and took pictures of her. She's okay with this story, right? That we
yeah,
share?
absolutely. I cleared this all with her. So elaborate on anything that I may have glossed over.
We were also thrown out of a restaurant. So there were a few places that we were thrown out of.
We were?
Yeah, and in fact, that's the curb that she was sitting on. It was that seafood restaurant. Like, I think they were about to close anyway, but they purposely threw us out. And then Ricky couldn't go any further, and so she sat down on the curb there. And then that's where that Child of Earth came out of nowhere and laid his roots down and was hoping to pollinate. But it didn't work out that way for him, fortunately. But yeah, I do remember going back to the hotel room and just drawing all over. God, what sympathy!
We were adorable.
Yeah, just a bunch of scallywags. And then I remember watching Cheaters. We were all watching Cheaters together too.
I remember her friend being really into me. That's what
she was all over you. Yeah,
yeah.
But who wasn't back then, James? You were so adorable.
That's best damn nerd show canon now. So.
And also us going to that drugstore by the motel, and you had your Iron Man helmet on.
Yes.
And the cashier goes, "Hey, you look like one of them space invaders from the Star Wars."
It's like a character out of like a bad sci-fi movie.
It's like one of those cartoon characters where it's the cartoon pitch and he just kept swinging strikes. It's like, how do you get it so wrong in one sentence? But it was, at the same time, it was just so perfect. What a great quote.
I'm going to kick this over to the group. A restaurant that we used to go to that's no longer there in Gaslamp, Hooters, used to be a tradition against my will. But Hooters was a tradition for Comic-Con going. I think thanks, firstly in part to Adam Zika, former executive producer of this program.
Well,
God,
that was
you're naming all names today, James.
yeah, really.
And I like how you completely disowned it by saying like, against my will, I didn't want to be there.
Because you guys used to give me shit about it, because when I didn't want to go, that's how the tradition really got going. It's like, yeah, we're going to go to Hooters. And then to bring it full circle, and we can fill in the gaps, but I wanted to go last year, and it was gone. I finally was like, let's just go to Hooters. I'm into it now. And
so
then
you
it was
did
gone.
want to go. So you did want to go.
Well, now,
Interesting.
and now it's gone. You know, you want what you can't
now,
have.
huh? Now that somebody else doesn't suggest it, you can't play the innocent card. Oh, I don't even want to be here, guys.
All right.
No, the best was.
What do you guys think about some wings later?
You were such a loudmouth little jokester about different cosplayers and things like that. We go to Hooters, you sit there like a quiet little church mouse, just looking at your feet the entire time, while John, Adam, and I had a nice evening.
Yeah, I didn't want to be there, but I was.
And also, it's the perfect place to go for Comic-Con weekend, because you can get I mean, it's appetizers and beer and stuff like that. And I mean, the gas lamp. A lot of those restaurants are overpriced as is. At least with Hooters, it's a chain, and so the prices are a little more static. And the wait was long, but not as long as some of the other places. So, I mean, it was, ideal to go. Mark and I had gone a year or two after that also, I remember.
I mean, they have good chicken, dude. Like, underrated, you know?
Adam was very taken with the fact that the waitress had the same Superman shirt as he did, which meant
Superboy.
that she had to go to a Target. So, congratulations. Another standout debaucherous moment. Do you remember the first date that we ruined?
Yes.
It's a story that we haven't talked about for a long time. Either personally or again as we're rebooting the Best Damn Nerd Show. But a friend of the show was coming to meet us out there.
Naming names, John.
Rockin' Baja.
No one's safe.
Yes,
Rockin' Baja, which is a tradition in of itself.
That's a premiere night.
One of her
dinner.
friends, I believe, like I don't know, or something like that. I think was the name.
My God! Yeah. Wow.
I mean, I haven't thought about it at all. But she brings this Steve Rogers looking hunk. And I think we kept
his name was Steve, I think, or we just called him Steve.
I think his name was like Chris or something like that. But we had too many Chris's in our life anyway. So, and he looked like Steve Rogers,
including the guy who plays Captain America. Too many Chris's.
So, but we were just completely sort of asking all these sort of invasive questions while this is a blind date for them, and they had the misfortune of being with all of us that night. Although I think it went pretty well for him. We were trying to put him over. He's a very nice, good-looking chap. It didn't work out, but that is one of my favorite nights out.
Not our fault. We did everything we could.
Yeah, we tried. We tried.
I think one of my favorite nights out, Jeff and I were walking through, and we had just hit up the San Diego hot dog shop. Yep. And it must have been like 1:30 in the morning.
It was late,
super late, and we're just stumbling down across.
We were
Fifth
done,
Avenue. Just done. And we looked over, and all of a sudden, like we bump into Jared Padalecki
from Supernatural,
and we were too far in and tired. It was just like instead of doing anything remotely like human, it was just pointing right at his face. And God bless him, he pointed right back and said the same
and he
thing.
smiled. Yeah.
Well, you guys were fast friends. That's great. So the last one too is I think we were I forget which bar it was, but the Thor cosplayer walking by, Jeff.
Yes.
What happened?
This guy was perfect Thor too, kind of like that perfect Captain America that we always run into. And he was walking by, and we were talking to him to get him to pose for a picture. And then we yelled that he was a vain, cruel boy. And there was like a moment where he paused, and then he hit it, and he goes, "You are a fool and an old man."
And he kept walking. He was perfect.
Yeah, and then he kept walking. It was perfect. It was ideal. That's why we brought the owl masks with us that night. Because then I was watching this. I put the owl mask on when we were at the bar, and I just was staring down this guy wearing the mask I have no idea who he was. And then I was taking my beer and pretending I was drinking with the mask on. And then the guy was staring back at me. And then he finally just like did like the laugh and like shaking his head no, and then like turned away. It's like owl kisses. Also, we were doing owl kisses.
We're doing a lot of owl stuff. You know, one of the things
that was the year of owl stuff.
Offsite when we all went to see Captain America: The First Avenger together, which was, you know, that was a big moment for Nerd
That
Show
movie
and
theater's not there anymore. That mall's not there anymore.
That's crazy to me. That's crazy. But speaking of Captain America, one of my favorite moments, walking outside the Hall H line and seeing a World War II era Captain America and just going, "Hey everyone, let's hear it for Captain America." And everyone who's been camping out overnight in this Hall H line just starts cheering for Captain America like in the movie. It's insane, the shit that goes on at Comic-Con, just how bought in everyone is. But we're going to take one more quick break. When we come back, we're going to discuss Comic-Con moving digital this year, the future of San Diego Comic-Con, and wrap things up on the Best Damn Nerd Show. And welcome back to the Best Damn Nerd Show on the 10O Media Network, the worldwide leader in all streaming entertainment. And we are wrapping up our San Diego Comic-Con conversation. And we wanted to make sure that we did this episode because Comic-Con is very special to all of us. And because of everything that's going on with the pandemic, Comic-Con has had to move to be digital this year. And I want to get sort of your guys' thoughts on the move to it being digital. Do you see anything sort of maybe continuing on past this year with that? And, you know, what are some of sort of the pros and cons of this move? I personally, I'm happy they're doing something with it to sort of keep the tradition going. I completely obviously understand the need to make this move, and a lot of other places have done that. But Jeff, as somebody whose streak remains unbroken, what are your thoughts on the con going digital?
I mean, it's kind of cool because then it's accessible to everybody. And there are a lot of things that you can just do digitally, like the panels. If anything were to carry over as far as a tradition from now on, it would be kind of cool to just have panels that are open to the public. I don't know how they would do it in the future, if it would continue to be free or if people would have to pay some sort of like digital price to get access to certain things. But I think it's something that they should consider doing, especially because all those rooms fill up so fast and only so many people can go to the convention in the first place. And it's like we're all sitting around waiting for things to be leaked online as soon as it's done anyway. Somebody's always secretly recording. But I mean, that's like the one thing I would like to see kind of carry over. I know another thing they're doing is there's always the vendors and stuff at Comic-Con. Now there's going to be like links to their shops to buy things online. I mean, that's not really necessary. People have online stores anyway. And you don't get the barter aspect, which I know is what Mark specializes in.
Never pay full price.
Yeah, but
Never
I mean, I think that
pay full price.
I think that's appropriate for this year. But yeah, it's just the access to panels online, I think would be kind of a cool thing that they can do going forward.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I mean, I think I don't fully agree because part of, you know, what makes Hall H so special is that, you know, you camp out, you get that exclusive footage. I don't personally like that now almost immediately studios will turn around and release those exclusive trailers as quickly as they do because, you know, then what are those fans even doing there? You know, maybe that's on them, but I would rather see a little bit more exclusivity as a reward to those people because God bless them. I don't have the patience to do that anymore, you know, to camp out for that kind of stuff. But I do think some type of online paneling could be, you know, the wave of the future for Comic-Cons and, you know, all conventions moving forward. And I think overall that's a good thing. John, what do you think?
I mean, I think BlizzCon has been doing a good job of that for a while, where you buy like the digital pass and you get, you know, access to everything live, but then you can kind of go back and rewatch stuff. So if you were watching the, you know, World of Warcraft panel, you can go back and watch, you know, stuff that was happening on a different stage later on. I think that has to be the wave of the future. But, you know, that being said, it's never going to replace the in-person experience. And definitely the social aspects of being there, you know, the story you told about the World War II Steve Rogers, like that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You know, that doesn't happen online. It can't. So, you know, those memories get made by having the in-person experience. And I think it'd be cool to have access to a ticket that allows you to visit in person and also have access to replays and VODs. And, you know, probably what we would do every day is go back to the hotel and like watch everything we missed, or maybe just rewatch the stuff that we were at, honestly.
Absolutely. Mark, what do you think?
So the video on demand, I feel like we're already kind of there in the fact that I don't go to Hall H, never been inside, don't even know what the room looks like anymore. But I still get all the content. Later that night, I have fond memories of us all, coming together and getting to watch this content and all the trailers that have come out over the day together, and we can watch the interviews if we want. We get to see some of the fun interactions between some of the actors. Sorry, the cat's attacking me. But so I feel like we're already like almost there in that regard. I think the biggest miss this year with going fully on demand in that regard is the in-person experience, and not just the waiting in line and getting those interactions with people while you're standing around, but the actual walkthrough experience of things, which are some of the biggest stands out of conventions in the past few years. It's not that did I get to see that trailer first, or I got to see the panel and share, the air with Stephen Amell or Richard Hatch. It's, the Court of Owls walk through a haunted house at the DC universe. It's the Godzilla exhibit where you're actually going through the destruction of Godzilla, going through Tokyo.
Excellent sushi.
Yeah, it's things like the Final Space VR experience, these other ancillary things that are tying you into these different IPs that you just don't get by watching a video at home. And so I think there will always be that attraction to coming in and getting to, quote unquote, like live with the things you nerd out about, as opposed to just getting to be voyeuristic and watching from home. In regards to this year, I think it's wonderful that I can continue putting that out and releasing the content. I already know a lot of companies are going to be holding back some of those key trailers that would have come out since they have, other avenues to explore that with and so forth, and just putting it out for free online, making bigger splashes, if you would. But I'm glad the tradition is not dying, at the very least, that Comic-Con is going to continue on, that people get to continue exploring these properties that they love and celebrating it together year after year, even during these very trying times.
I think that is incredibly well put. And, it's not like Comic-Con has, even if they continue on with digital aspects of it, they have more people than they know what to do with. The crowds are a constant source of consternation. So I don't see attendance becoming a problem just because they continue doing online panels. Davis, what do you think?
Yeah, no, attendance is always going to be through the roof, and it's because of the experiences that we've been talking about. And to harp on another one that we haven't talked about tonight, our new tradition of playing board games in the board game hall. Like, yeah. We're trying out all these new games. We're having a blast just playing together, and that's what we do at night during these weekends now too, is play each other's board games. And we're having a lot of fun. Like this last year, we played that pirate ship one, and we're just like taking each other out, having a blast with the host, and he's just like, wow, it didn't even seem like he had seen people have that much fun with his game yet, and it was just really cool to have that experience with him. But it's not going to take it away. I mean, people are still going to go every year if they make this live, and I think if they could come up with a way, if it was an app or game, where make the whole convention digital, like a video game almost, where you have your avatar that you can walk around and you can go into the different rooms, and right when you enter a room, it's the live, whatever's going on, it's live. And you can just watch. You can walk the convention center. You can see the toys and all the booths. And if you like look straight at a booth, then you're in that store. Then you're checking their stuff out, just like Artist Alley.
That would be very cool.
I think, I mean, not a game designer, not anything like that, but I don't think that would be incredibly difficult to do from a game design standpoint or an app standpoint.
Well, that's like the was it PlayStation Home back on the PS3? I don't even know if they still do that on PS4. I'm generations behind. Not gonna lie, I had a baby. I'm not onto the new consoles, but I remember PS3. There was the the PlayStation Home, where it was just kind of like a second life of sort, and you can walk around and interact with different people on the network and go to different rooms to watch videos and things of that nature. That would be pretty awesome to see if you can amass it to such a huge audience.
Yeah, and you get to bring exposure, I think, to the toy shops, the artist alley. Like,
Yeah.
all these people can now see these smaller artists and give them exposure. It's just one weekend, and people will spend the time probably because it's that one time of the year that you're going to do that. And even if you're just sitting at home, then you're going to get a ton more people experiencing this, and even if it's not in person.
As we're winding down tonight, I want to just quickly reflect one more time on just, what Comic-Con has meant to, all of us. And I think for me, I know I've joked with Jeff about this off the air that, what's happened is sort of a monkey paw wish, because as the years have gone on, what happens at the convention itself has sort of become less important to me, and what has become more and more important to me is just the interaction that I get with all of you for that, however many days that I come down to San Diego and get to hang out with you guys. Davis, you mentioned playing the board games with each other at night, catching up on what we did when we branched off on our own things. That's why I encourage everyone, go with some friends and experience it at least once in your life, and you will make memories that will last a lifetime. And that's what Comic-Con has really been for me. It's just been some really, really fond memories that I hold very, very dearly. So we can all go around and say just, what Comic-Con means to you. Marco?
It's really getting to see my boys every year. Greatest thing about this podcast, and what I think really makes it work, is the energy that all of us have and the experience that we have with each other that listeners get to take in on. And it doesn't get showcased better than when we're all together at Comic-Con, getting to geek out on all the events of the day. What did you find? Who did you see? What did you experience? And all those natures. It's the fellowship that's made within that 4 or 5 day span with all of us here that I cherish most, and becomes really the definitive aspect of doing this show with each other. It's what really just exhibits all of our best qualities and why we do this. That chance where we all get to be together, because we all have lives. We all diverge on different paths and quests in life that have taken us to different areas across the state and even beyond sometimes. But we all have this together, and Comic-Con, it does just that. It brings us all together, just as it does many other people with different fellowships.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, kind of one of the big reasons why we all decided to reboot this podcast together too, was to have a bunch of excuses to come back together and connect. And I'm announcing this right now, and we might have to edit this out if we can't fulfill it, but I think our first community event should be San Diego Comic-Con watch party in July.
I think it's a great idea. I'd love to sit down, watch the live stuff with you guys, and have our fans react, have our community just become part of our community of friends.
Yeah, and look, like I know, not everyone's going to be able to get time off work for certain parts of it, but we have been very active in Discord for several weeks now, and if you guys want to join, just go to bestdamnnerdshow.com/Discord and join us, and we will, we'll have like an official stream or something for it. But I think it could be really cool to experience it together and with our listeners for the first time. I mean, this year kind of gives us that opportunity. So
that's a great idea. I like that a lot. Jeff,
I'm in.
You want to add?
Yeah, kind of like what everybody else has been saying. It's our excuse to take like a group vacation together every year, which is really cool. Especially with the amount of bonding that's happened over the last like few years. With, the part that we look forward to the most was hanging out at like Mark's house or whatever and playing board games. I mean, I guess we'll be at a hotel next year. It's going to be, because if I'm the closest person to the convention, I'm not close at all. So
I'm fine with that, by the way. I'm a proponent of the hotels.
And then, I mean, it kind of takes me back to my first convention. And it's a celebration of so many different types of properties and activities and bringing people together and learning new things. I mean, like, I wasn't into anime at all when I first went to the San Diego Comic-Con. That's something that came a couple of years later. And it's just every time you find a new interest or a new hobby, the next time you go to the convention, you find out, wow, there's this whole other section that really just celebrates that. And a whole other group of people to interact with and talk to about those things. I mean, I think about like the people that we've met in lines. And it's like you make all of these convention friends, which are really fun. And it's not necessarily people that you keep in touch with or anything like that. But at that moment, you guys are sharing something, and it's really cool.
Beautifully said.
Yeah. I mean, I like seeing you guys, so that's okay. But
it's where we met.
How much do you want to do the Robinson Crusoe game? You want to bring that down so badly.
Oh my god, I've been wanting to play. I just been playing by myself recently. I finally beat some levels, so I know how to beat it now with you guys. But no, I mean, on top of the obvious being with you guys, two things. It gives me an excuse to put a new costume together every year. And
we didn't even talk about you dressing as the Phantom.
And yeah, because Scott Snyder loves me, and that's canon.
That's true.
That is true.
He was very complimentary in the bathroom, wherever he saw you.
Just pressing neck as the goblin.
It was in the bathroom.
It was in the bathroom, right?
Yeah, and I would love to be in the Masquerade Ball one year. That would be great. But the other thing for me is it kind of kicks off the nerd year for me, because you have everything laid out before you of what's coming. And so I guess in this culture, that's kind of how I see it. It's like the nerd new year, because you know what's coming in the next year. There's all this excitement over everything, and it just kind of refreshes me a little bit.
Yeah, that's cool. I never thought about it like that. That's awesome.
Is a good way to describe it. Yeah,
it really is. And John and Davis, you talked a little bit about wanting to do something with our listeners and, coming together to reboot this podcast, and with the Discord, been going for a few weeks now, and now at launch and the response and everything. I just have to say on behalf of all of us, a huge Titanic thank you to all the listeners that have stuck with us, rejoined us, maybe discovered us for the first time. But there are some OG Best Damn Nerd Show listeners out there that have stuck with us through thick and thin. And when we announced that we were coming back and we announced the Discord, they were right there with us and so excited. I don't want to leave anybody out, and I apologize if I do, but people like Scotty, Gabby, I still don't know how to pronounce your name, but you're one of my favorites, man. And he's got a show of his own now. Zach, Mary Dan, Justin, aka the Gay Florida Nerd. It's just like people that from you talk about day one-ish. These were day one Best Damn Nerd Show listeners.
Yeah, it gets me. It actually, like, when you first started talking about it, gets me a little choked up, because the idea that like these people discovered our show when we were this obscure, show on campus radio.
I mean,
2009. Like, first of all, I don't even know how they found us. Like,
yeah,
we were so we were obscure to things that are obscure. But the fact that like we launched this Discord and tell people that we're going to be putting a new podcast out, and people come, and we've been we've been chatting with them every day and talking about stuff and catching up with everybody. And it's very emotional. I don't know. It's surreal.
It is surreal. It's humbling. It's flattering. People like Rush, again, Jesse, Cameron, all of the kind words that you share with us here, and just your excitement level. And even over the years, messaging us, talking about how much you love the show, it kept us going. And now with us coming back, it's reinvigorating. And again, it's incredibly humbling. It is emotional. I am so grateful. We are so grateful to each and every one of you, and just the reaction. I cannot overstate just how much it means to all of us. And with that being said, please rate and review us on iTunes. Give us 5 stars, and
5 stars.
We'll read your reviews on the show, of course, like we did in the olden days. If that bear is still out there that wants to get its hooks into me, let me know. I hope my voice isn't as nasally as it once was. But
Love that the only comment you remember is the most negative one about you.
Oh, dude, it sticks with me. You
That's
haunt
just
my
human
dreams.
nature. Yeah.
11 years later, he wakes up in cold sweat at night like, who the
But
fuck was that?
we are so thrilled to be back doing our thing with you in the Nerdosphere, and we're going to incorporate more and more of you in this wonderful community that we are building now on Discord, on Twitter, and beyond, on our Facebook and everything like that. We want to hear from you, hosts at bestdamnnerdshow.com. It's back again, and the Russian bots have been beaten back, and we've rebooted that email as well. So, you know, we're just thrilled to be back with you and interacting with you, and looking forward to a lot more. But that is going to do it for this very special Comic-Con edition of the Best Damn Nerd Show. Looking forward to watching along with the Cyber edition of SDCC and reporting after that. But that will do it for this week. Have a great week, everyone. And remember, if you're a nerd, always say it loud and say it proud.
And thank you, Lucas, for listening.
Yes, Lucas. How could I forget?
Joel.
And Joel.
Joel runs shit. He's not just a listener now.
He still deserves a thank you.
He does.